Hey, this is Steve I. Let's rock. Hey, how you doing, Ken?
Good. How are you?
I'm great.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. All right. Thanks for the interview.
Oh, my pleasure. Welcome to Let's Rock.
All right. Good to be here.
The last time we talked, you were on your way to Korea.
Oh, yeah?
And then you were with Generation X, actually. And then you were on your way to Norway for the Starmus convention to give a speech.
Yeah. That was great.
I watched that the other day, actually. For a dude who speaks with his fingers a lot, you're pretty good with words.
Well, I've had to make part of my living doing interviews, so I've had practice.
Yeah, no kidding. Lots of it.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the new album.
Thank you.
It is fantastic.
All right. Thanks.
So it's called Inviolate. Why?
Inviolate, yeah.
Inviolate? Why?
Well, that was a word that I kind of came across some years ago, and I just liked the way it sounded. I really liked the meaning of it. The word inviolate basically means unable to harm, unable to violate, something that's kind of pure, untouchable. Nothing can alter it or change it. It's inviolate.
Nice. And how does it feel now that it's dropped? How are you feeling?
It's nice. It's always great. Release day is a little, historically, it's been, a little nerve-wracking. You never know how things are going to go. But through the years, I realize after I release a record, the reaction to it is usually kind of on par with the level of quirkiness I've added to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this record was pretty straight ahead, and it's been a while since I've released a record so focused on guitar. My last record, Modern Primitive, was very Vi in that it had the density and the quirky stuff and that kind of thing. And a lot of my projects are pretty diverse. I do orchestra work. I do some film work sometimes. But there's any kind of a record I could make when I sit down to go and make a record. Like for instance, before the pandemic, I was working on the third installment of a trilogy of records called Real Illusions. And that was going to be a pretty robust project with vocals and a lot of musicians and this kind of thing. And I laid it all out. And then, you wake up and it's like lockdown, So plans changed, and eventually I wanted to get on tour. And I had a couple of tracks that I had created and released live, for the fans during the lockdown. And that was the beginning. So it took about a year to make the record. And I just wanted something really straight ahead, relatively for me.
Is that possible with you?
Right. Not usually. Whenever I do something too straight ahead, there's this little voice in the back of my head that goes, why are you doing this? You don't do it good. And also everybody else is doing it. Better.
Better. Well, let's not say that.
Yeah.
It was nice to hear a few things. Number one, the guitar playing is fantastic. I was really impressed. Maybe this is just me, but the sound of the rhythm guitars is something that really stood out to me, more so than on previous albums by you.
Yeah. Well, but maybe one explanation of that might be the majority of the amp system that I used for Inviolate was my new Synergy module. It's a sort of a signature module. It's this really great company, Synergy. Well, the company is Boutique Audio, but they have a division called Synergy, and they make these module preamps that are in many cases licensed by the companies that actually built various amplifiers. So you get
Right.
like a Friedman module, and it's tubes, and it's the preamp section of a Friedman amp, or tons. They have tons. Some of them are sort of um, fashioned after, sort of like a Bassman or a Plexi. But it's just amazing because you have all these amplifiers at your disposal just by clicking a switch. So naturally, I was approached to make a custom module, because my ear usually is attracted to guitar tones that are kind of smooth, little compression, and just have an ease to the playing, Like if I plug directly into a Marshall, my style, of course I can get through it, but I just don't resonate with the feeling of it. So I've been very fortunate that I've been able to work with great companies through the years to design things based on the way I'd like to hear them. And Synergy came along and they made this module, and it's just fantastic. It's kind of like a legacy, but we altered it a bit. And I use many different amps on Inviolate, but every time I would record any guitar parts, I always record a DI, the direct signal. And then I reamp it through various other amplifiers. So you record a guitar part through one amp, you take the DI and you send it through a reamp to other amplifiers, and then you record those, and you can blend amplifiers. What I discovered was I just went right for my Synergy amp most of the time, and there was a couple of tracks where I thought, okay, I can't use the same amp, I gotta mix it up for the main guitar sound, and I would try another amp, and I would reamp it through the Synergy and make that the main sound. So maybe that has something to do with with the sound of the guitar. Obviously on the record there is sort of a crispness and a heaviness there that I found in that module. So
yeah, it definitely different than the stuff I've heard before. The other thing I liked about it was Bryan Beller and Billy Sheehan.
yeah, right.
It's funny, when I was listening to I believe, sorry, I'm forgetting the name real quick, the Bryan Beller track,
Little Pretty.
I didn't know who was playing on the album.
Yeah, I don't think
I
they
knew it
said
was
that.
him.
You did, really?
Absolutely. I love the Aristocrats, and
Mm-hmm.
I could tell. And even in my review, I wrote, that sounds a lot like Bryan Beller.
Yeah, he's a bad boy, man. He is a bad boy. And I had that track, and because of the lockdown, I had the opportunity to just send tracks out to people, and have them do their part. Bryan actually came to the studio, but when I recorded Little Pretty, I put the bass on it, just as a guide. But I know that my bass playing is good for certain things, but certainly not a track like that.
No, that he was all over the place.
He was all over the place, and we had a great time recording it. And he's one of the guys that can really navigate a song like that, because it's a tricky song.
It is.
That whole solo section, trying to play bass through that solo section with those chord changes. When I thought of that, I said it has to be Bryan.
He's special. And Billy Sheehan, another one that you can just tell right away, that's him.
You can tell right away. And that track, Avalanche, was from the recording sessions for Real Illusions. And when I was pacing and sequencing Real Illusions, I had to make a choice between Building the Church and Avalanche. Now, the only thing I had recorded for Avalanche back then was the bass and the drums, and that was Jeremy, Colson, and Billy. And I knew it was on the shelf, and I knew I had to finish it one day, because I liked the heaviness of it. And frankly, Billy's part, what he played on that track, I just love it. It's so Billy, and it fits that track so well. That was one of the reasons I wanted to unpack that track. So for Inviolate, I decided to put it on the block and unpack it.
Unpacked. Unpacked. It was. Yes. It's been a long time with Billy, hasn't it? What was that? 36 years ago that you went back to Eat 'em and Smile.
Something like that.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I mean, I was aware of Billy, obviously, because at the time, when Billy hit the scene, there was nothing like it. Every now and then a monolith appears, in some genre or in some business or someplace, and they just have this unique ear and approach and creativity, and they have this bulletproof confidence in what they're doing, and that's Billy. And he never veered. He never dropped character, with his playing. And he's one of our greats in what he does. There's nobody that does it, and I feel comfortable saying that. What Billy does. There's nobody that does it.
Yeah, he's one of a kind.
He's one of a kind, really. I don't believe I've ever even seen anybody try to pantomime him.
I don't think you can.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Now, it's hard to come up with questions that you've never answered before. So today I was thinking I've got to hit him with one that he's probably never had before.
Well, I'll give you $1 if you can.
How's this one? You've talked a lot about this new guitar, the Hydra. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to go into all the details about the Hydra because you've said it.
Thank you.
It's an amazing looking guitar, by the way. I will say that. Yeah, but my question about the Hydra is, and I think this might be the one you've never had before, how much extra are you paying your guitar tech to take care of this beast?
I'm sorry, but I've been asked that 3 times already.
Damn it! Damn.
Yeah, you were close though. I respect your creativity.
I was going for it.
Yeah. Well, it takes a special person to wrestle the Hydra when it comes time to change those strings, and that would be one Thomas Nordig.
He's a brave man.
Yeah, he's a brave man.
Absolutely. So I'm guessing that this must feel extra special, this new album, because of what you've gone through in the last couple of years with the surgery, and it must feel extra special to have overcome that and gotten everything down. Did you have to relearn anything? Is your arm?
I didn't. The surgery didn't concern me really. I wasn't in fear. Once you mention something like this, the press grabs it. Next thing you know, you're the guy that ripped his arm off with a pizza oven. Ridiculous, but that's all right. Hey, it's drama, right? So wait, what was the question again?
The question was, I was just basically commenting that it must feel, good.
Oh yeah. So, basically, I try to approach things by first accepting what is, and that's big. Because, for instance, when we'll use my shoulder as when I knew I had to get it worked on, that's what is, right? So, I'm not going to complain about it because I try to look at the positive aspects of it, and the positive aspect was this is good because I need it and I'm going to get fixed, and that's it, and if something happened, well, then I would deal with it when it happened, but I would first accept things as they are. And when you do that, okay, I got an injury, I got to do this, then you have the ability to make quality decisions about things. There's a clarity there when you're not in panic mode or feeling desperate or anything like that. And this is, I call it your center. You're centered. You're in a state of relative stillness in the face of challenges. And those challenges take on a different form when your perspective of them changes. And your perspective changes when you allow them to be as they are, and then you look for solutions. See, if you're in a state of panic, oh my God, my shoulder, what am I going to do? I can't go on tour. Everybody's going to do. I'm like, what if it never comes back? Oh shit, what am I going to do? How can I make a valuable decision in a state of disarray? So that's a practice, though. It really is a life practice to be able to police your reactions to events and things. But it's the secret to freedom, liberation, and happiness.
Wow. That was a little deeper than I thought it would be.
Well, I have a tendency to go there, so
Go for it. Now, I was reading a YouTube comment you left on a YouTube video by a guy named Tyler on Music is Win.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. He was teaching your joint. What do you call it?
Joint shifting.
Joint shifting. And it was an amazing comment. But what struck me is that you were pushing him to inspire people and learn new things. And you talked about how you were inspired by so many. I'm wondering now who pushes you, the current crop of guitar players.
All of them. Because whenever I watch a guitar player, regardless of their ability, their technicality, their what they've accomplished, I just love watching people play guitar. I could if I'm at a bar mitzvah and there's a band, I'm the guy sitting in the corner watching the guitar player. It doesn't matter what they're playing. I just love it. So anything that you see changes you somehow.
Right.
We're always more. From one moment to the next, we become more. So all the guitar players that I've been exposed to in my whole life have had some kind of an impact, and obviously some more than others. And these days, I've been able to watch over the years two to three evolutions of guitar playing. In the realm that I play, the real guitar kind of playing, whether it was rock in the 80s, grunge in the 90s, gent in the 2000s, you know what I mean? I've watched these things evolve. And it's really great to watch because in any field, when new people are born and they come into the world and they're interested in that field, they wake up and they look around and they go, okay, well, this is where things are at right now. This is where I basically have to start. Because when you see somebody doing something, whether it's an athletic feat or a musical feat, artistic, business, anything, and they've really raised the bar, you don't know they raised the bar because you're coming in at that spot. And you're able to see what's possible. And being able to see what's possible is vital in you learning and taking it someplace else. So I've seen these guitar players coming along that have kind of, taken what myself and my peers have done and escalated it, And even when the 90s came and grunge came, the guitar evolved and differently than shredding or anything like that. But there was some really great stuff, and I was inspired by that to some extent. If you listen to like Linkin Park and those bands that are really heavy, I love that. And then there was this strong kind of pulse for virtuosity. And that is really prevalent these days in those underground movements. And I see like these incredible players, I see styles really evolving, like when Polyphia came out, Tim and Scott, what those guys were doing was, the moment I saw it, it seemed like an evolution, and it inspired me. It pushed me, as you say, not in that direction. I can't do that. I'd have to relearn the guitar, And then, they spawned all of this other movement of these guitar players now that are even taking what they're doing at another level. And then you got guys like Tosin Abasi and some of these young Italian guitar players, Daniel Gottardo and Matthias Mancuso. I mean, they're just doing extraordinary things. So they inspire me. Yeah.
And the other thing you said in that comment was, I'm going to read this because I don't want to mess up the quote. Doing things for technique's sake usually come out sounding that way, like a technique.
Yeah.
And how do you take it from a technique to musicality?
That the technique aspect of it has to do with your academic mind and your thinking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're developing anything, whether it's driving a car or building a business or creating a recipe or learning how to play the guitar, there's periods that you go through where you got to hone your craft. You got to focus in an analytical. This is where your intellect can be helpful, and also your learning. So that's a different brain muscle, you know. But to make that technique that you've applied your new technique that you've applied your academic intellectual skills to make it sound like a piece of music or to sound musical, that requires a different kind of a brain muscle, you know. And it involves zero intellectualization, meaning you're not thinking about it anymore in your mind. You're not negotiating it, you know. You're listening now with your inner ear in a different way. And you're after you get through the okay, so for instance, there's a song on the record called Teeth of the Hydra. And it was new for me because it involved this, you know, multi-necked instrument, and I'm playing all these necks, you know what I mean? And I've never been one to have any real independence, you know? Like I can write, transcribe, compose the most complex piano and drum part, you know, whatever, any instrument I can, like drums, for the greatest drummers, most accomplished players. And I did that with Frank. I was transcribing Vinnie Colaiuta drum parts. But if I sit behind a drum set, I sound like a drunk falling down a flight of stairs. You know, I just can't. I don't have it. So I had to really first apply my academic skills, my intellectualization to get that going. And then once you get the hang of it, it doesn't sound great. But you just keep doing it. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. And you keep doing it. And the more you do it, something you have to transcend having patience. You know what I mean? Having patience means that you're doing something that you don't want to do.
Right.
Sort of, right? You have to transcend that. There's a joy and a deep satisfaction when what you're doing starts to sound like music, and then it starts to develop this effortlessness. And like with the Hydra, I would have to do that one bar at a time, you know what I mean? And then finally I'd get through a section and I could get through it, but does it sound like music, or is it just a new technique I'm fooling with? I know that it's a new technique, but I want it to sound like music, so I have to just keep doing it. And then the magic, it's just miraculous. You become the music. That's the shift. You shift out of your intellectual mind and your academic thinking, any thinking. You transcend above, so to speak. You go above thinking, and you're just completely present. And in that presence, now remember, you've already got the skills, whatever the technique is. Once you don't have to think about that, then there's something else that allows you to craft what you're playing into an elegant sounding thing, you know, into music. And it could be really heavy, it could be really heavy, it could be jazz, whatever it is. There's that ultra zone that you could see it when you watch Tiger Woods swing a golf club. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's an unconsciousness there, but it's pure consciousness. And that's how you turn your intellectualizations and new techniques into something that sounds like music. Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually it does.
Okay.
No, I
also want to add something. That music is win.
Yep.
That I love that site, and I love that the one that does it. What's I can't remember his name right now.
I have it here. It's Tyler.
Tyler, of course.
Yeah.
He's great. Guys like that really serve the community in a tremendous way. Because he loves the instrument, and he's frenetic about it, and he offers things that are interesting, entertaining, informative. So he's like a guy like that is like the glue that helps us all to kind of like evolve. So
right, and he teaches it in such a nice way that a beginner like me can get it.
Yeah, and he's
I can't
excited.
do it, but I can understand it.
Right, and he's excited. So
he loves it. Yeah. He was fantastic.
That's the key ingredient.
Yeah, exactly. He's so much passion for it. It was amazing. So the last 2 years have been pretty crappy for everyone. I'm not going to get into that either, but
they weren't crappy for me.
Well, that was my point. It afforded you a lot of time to do some new stuff. How could this record have happened if you had your regular touring schedule and if you were out on the road all the time? Would this record have happened, or would it be a completely different thing?
Well, as you know, in your life, once the pandemic came, all bets were off. Everything changed for a lot of people, and they changed for me. And I say that I was okay through the pandemic. Of course, I had my challenges. You know what I mean? My biggest challenge was just trying to find sober information, because American TV is just fucked up.
Yeah. Canadian.
Yeah. And but I didn't, I just felt like, okay, this is what is. How can I make lemonade out of lemons? How can this serve me? How can this pandemic somehow serve me? So many people don't ask that question. And it sounds almost ludicrous for me to say something like that when there's people that are suffering, and even some of them losing their lives. Right. But not everybody's losing their life, and not everybody is suffering to that degree. And even in that condition, saying a sentence like, how can this serve me, just sounds ridiculous. But in many cases, for a lot of people, there is the potential to ask that question. How can this serve me? There's a situation that's happening. So you see, you have to be authentic in your asking. How can this serve me? And then the answers will come. And for someone like me, that question directed me to do various things that worked out. So the answer to the question is, if I had a tour scheduled in lockdown, that would have meant I had a record completed already. So it doesn't, and I was done touring right when the lockdown hit. So I didn't have to move any tour plans, but I did have to move 3 times these orchestra recordings that I'm working on. We're going to be doing them in May now in Holland with the Metropole Orchestra. It's like 4 hours of my orchestra music. So that had to move. But then I just got at some point during the lockdown, I got a very clear picture. Book a tour. I want to go on tour. I'm going to book a mega tour. It's going to be 250 shows. I'm going to go around the world, and I'm going to be gone for like a year and a half. And boy, I can't wait. And that's what I want to do. So obviously we don't know what's going to happen because of the situation, but you put your best foot forward, and we booked the tour, and we booked it in modules, And basically, everything was going well. I had the shoulder surgery last year, and it healed, and then I made the record, so everything was fine. But I had another injury over the summer. I did something stupid. I was, as mentioned, pulling a pizza out of the oven, and I just did it. I just was still kind of healing, and I just whacked it because it was brutal, but it wasn't to the point where it couldn't be, you know, healed. But then the Hydra, and that and certain things just got it. It just kept making it worse, and there was no way I was going to be able to do 250 shows with this. But I will be able to because I want to. Let's hope so.
Until you can do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hopefully Canada's on
Yeah.
that tour as well.
Oh, well, hang on. I can mention that, but I have another interview coming in. Let me just put them on hold for a second.
Okay.
Hello?
Hi, is that Steve? Hello, is that Steve?
Hi, yeah, this is Steve. I'm in the.
Hi,
I'm finishing up. Yeah, hi. I'm finishing up another interview. Would you mind just holding for a few minutes?
Yeah, no problem whatsoever. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks. I only have one more question anyway.
Okay, but you had a question that you asked before that I.
Oh, I just said hopefully Canada's on that tour.
Oh yes, well, I'm really trying to do a massive tour, and when I do that, I'll hit the North America twice and do like 55 shows twice, and I always end up going like into Canada for a few shows and then back out, and I love Canada, and so I decided. I told my booking agent on this first run, no Canada dates. The second run, I want to go to every place in Canada because going through the borders and stuff like that can be a little bit of a hassle. So the second leg of the North American tour is many Canadian. I want to get because every tour when I go to Canada, I don't get every place,
Right.
know. And this time I'm gonna like plant myself in Canada for a huge run
Awesome.
and hit all those great places.
Awesome. All right. Speaking of Canada, then, your last question. The first time I saw you was with David Lee Roth in Ottawa. He recently retired, which is kind of the end of an era.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you for this one was,
I think that era might have ended longer ago, but
yeah. What's that?
I think that era might have ended a while ago, but
true. But how did your time in that band make Steve Vai who he is today?
Oh, it was vital because when I had joined Dave's band, I'd never been on a big stage. Well, I was on Frank's stage, but Frank's stage was all about watching Frank and standing there and making sure you're hitting all the right notes, Dave Roth was one of the most enigmatic, charismatic performers in rock, and he taught me a lot. I learned in Dave's band, I learned how to emote to a large group of people. I learned more how to be a performer because, we were all hams, you know what I mean? We loved running around and wearing crazy clothes and doing all that stuff. And I learned a certain bit about discipline. Dave was very professional, I know he's got the persona, but if you needed to be someplace at 11, you better be there at 10:30. You know what I mean? So it was that I learned that, like you're not like you do the job, you do it right, and you do it fast, and it was great, So I got a lot out of that formed who I am today.
That's fantastic. Perfect. Thanks so much for this. Congratulations on the album. It's fantastic. Best of luck, and hopefully we'll see you in Ottawa at some point on that massive tour.
Yeah, I hope so, and I'm sure. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.